Hello and welcome to the Adventist Analyzer. On today's program we're going to talk about Ellen G. White's necromancy as defined by the Bible and by Adventists themselves. We're going to look at the various aspects of Ellen White's communication with her deceased husband James, and we're going to decide whether that is necromancy or not. And we're going to do something that Seventh-day Adventists don't do, and that is we're going to judge rightly according to the commandments of Christ. We're also going to look at Adventist hypocrisy. They have bias and men's admiration in sight when they look at Ellen G. White and contemplate anything that she did. They always give her not only the benefit of the doubt, but Mrs. White can do no wrong for the Adventists. And for the Adventist view of necromancy, we're going to look at prominent theologian Walter Veith, a Seventh-day Adventist who's well known, and we're going to see how he defines necromancy, even dream necromancy, as from the devil, and those who participate in it are in Seventh-day Adventist view, lost and deceived. And certainly I agree that a person that's involved in necromancy is a deceived person. But we are going to look at innocent dreams of a dead spouse in comparison to Ellen G. White's very strange encounter with her husband, and how she wants to consult with him further. And so we're going to look at all this, the aspects of this. So let's start with this clip from Walter Veith.
Welcome to Bible Answers. The question today is: a friend of mine recently had her dead son appear to her in a night dream and speak to her about many personal things. Is this not evidence that the dead can come back and speak to us? The Bible refers to death as a state of sleeping. Jesus says, "Lazarus sleepeth. I go to wake him up." And the disciples thought he was talking about literal sleep, but he was speaking about his death. So he said to them plainly, "Lazarus is dead." If we turn to Job and we read there in chapter 7, it says, "Oh, remember that my life is a breath. My eye will never again see good. The eye of him who sees me will see me no more. While your eyes are upon me, I shall no longer be. As the cloud disappears and vanishes away, so he who goes down to the grave does not come up. He shall never return to his house, nor shall his place know him anymore." That's pretty plain teaching. But the dead know nothing. And they have no more reward, for the memory of them is forgotten. Also their love, their hatred, their envy have now perished. Nevermore will they have a share in anything done under the sun. So if someone appears to you in a dream, if someone appears to you in an apparition, then who is appearing to you? It cannot be those who are dead, because they know nothing and they will never again return unto their home. Then it must be a demon impersonating the one. And he will have a thorough knowledge of your circumstances and your life, and he will give the impression that he is impersonating, or that he is the son or the daughter or the husband. And the Bible tells us that we should have nothing to do with spiritism. To the law and to the testimony, if they speak not according to this word, they have no light in them. So the Bible admonishes us to believe the word, and therefore not to believe what apparitions say or spirits say to us.
Now just imagine how Walter Veith would look at a person who actually starts to consult with this dead apparition and wants to have them come back over and over again. They'd be really condemned by the Adventist Church. Yet we'll look at Ellen White's own account of her encounter with her dead husband James and see that she's guilty of so much more than any innocent dreamer. And yet, of course, no flies on Ellen. Again, hearkening back to the Millerite movement, yet once again, the Adventist judgment is perverted just like it was in the Millerite movement. William Miller was a Christ-contrary opposer of Jesus Christ, as portrayed in Matthew 24 by Jesus Christ himself. Yet Seventh-day Adventists will never say that. He's the great father and pioneer of Seventh-day Adventism. You know, error always has radical extremes. Adventists condemn innocent dreamers who dream about their dead spouse. Yet Ellen G. White is free and clear of any charges of necromancy or anything untoward. And they view her contact with James as just something that Ellen did, magical, I guess. So keep in mind what Mr. Vethis said in that clip. Okay, so let's look at Ellen G. White's own account of her encounter with the deceased James. I better not say dead too much because I don't know if they'll bleep it out or whatever. A few days since, I was pleading with the Lord for light in regard to my duty. In the night, I dreamed I was in the carriage, driving, sitting at the right hand. Father was in the carriage, seated at my left hand. Won't go into that. He was very pale, I can imagine, but calm and composed. I hope so. "Why, Father," I exclaimed, "I am so happy to have you by my side once more. I felt that half of me was gone. Father, I saw you die. I saw you buried. Has the Lord pitied me and let you come back to me again? And we work together as we used to?" He looked very sad. He said, "The Lord knows what is best for you and for me. My work was dear, very dear to me. We had made a mistake. We have responded to urgent invitations of our brethren to attend important meetings. We had not the heart to refuse. These meetings have worn us both more than we were aware. Our good brethren were gratified, but they did not realize that in these meetings we took upon us greater burdens than at our age we could safely carry. They will never know the result of this long continued strain upon us. Now, Ellen, calls will be made as they have been, desiring you to attend important meetings, as has been the case in the past, but lay this matter before God and make no response to the most earnest invitations. Your life hangs, as it were, upon a thread. You must have quiet rest, freedom from all excitement and from all disagreeable cares." I would say Ellen White is having a dream of how she feels about things, and not James coming along and telling her what the story is. Just like her visitation with an angel, supposedly, that came into her office and talks just like her and says, well, and I talked about that before. But I bring it up because you'll see that this language is something that Ellen White uses. And surprisingly, the angel uses it too. I wonder how that is. He looked at me appealingly and said, "You will not neglect these cautions, will you, Ellen? Our people will never know under what infirmities we have labored to serve them because our lives were interwoven with the progress of the work. But God knows it all." Yeah, the work of the devil that you thought was of God. "I regret that I have felt so deeply and labored unreasonably in emergencies, regardless of the laws of life and health." I know I'm interrupting this, but I'm going to do a program on how Ellen White believed that God was going to kill her little son if she didn't go out and do this work. She actually believed that, and he was really sick, and Ellen White believed that it was God doing that, and Adventists who read it believe that also. And here she is. This is not the work. Seventh-day Adventism is not the work of God. It's doctrines of devils that she's spreading. So it was not God that was going to kill her little son because she wasn't going out and spreading this Seventh-day Adventist heresy. Now here she says, "Well," said I, "James, you are always to stay with me now. You are always to stay with me now, and we will work together." You know, there's a lot of money in our pens, as she said in another time. Said he, "I stayed in Battle Creek too long. I ought to have gone to California more than 1 year ago, but I wanted to help the work and institutions at Battle Creek. I have made a mistake. Your heart is tender. You will be inclined to make the same mistakes I have made. Your life can be of use to the cause of God. Oh, those precious subjects the Lord would have had me bring before the people precious jewels of light. Read Luciferian lesser light in that. I awoke, but this dream seemed so real. Now you can see and understand why I feel no duty to go to Battle Creek for the purpose of shouldering the responsibilities of the General Conference. I have no duty to stand in General Conference. The Lord forbids me. Here she is, having this necromancy dream that Seventh-day Adventists condemn just when innocent speaking to in a dream to a dead spouse. And you hear she's consulting with James. James is telling her what to do, and she says it's from the Lord. Now, does this not have the appearance, at least, of impropriety and scandal? The appearance of evil? Here, Ellen White is supposed to be the last prophet to the world, and the prophetess of a pure church that is the greatest commandment keepers, that become so pure, this is how they're saved, by keeping the law of God as perfect as Jesus did. That's the only way you can be saved as a Seventh-day Adventist, according to Seventh-day Adventist scholars. And I'll show you those. I'll read those to you. I was an Adventist for 20 years, and despite what they say, all of what Adventism understands and believes is not downloaded. All that data is not downloaded off of you when you leave the church. A lot of evil and bad things are downloaded off of you. You don't all of a sudden forget everything that you believed as an Adventist. Ellen White is this prophetess of purity in meats and drinks and in various nonsenses, like not wearing hoops and wearing the right collar and all this other idiocracy. Yeah, here she is talking to her dead husband, which she condemns, which her Seventh-day Adventist church still condemns to this day. I mean, does this not bother you at all? What could Ellen White do that would bother you? It's on you talk about being on dangerous ground to doubt anything that Ellen White said, or to doubt her as a prophetess. Saying such things is very scandalous. It shows cultism and fear. You don't even say anything about Ellen White. You're on dangerous ground if you do. You can't say anything bad about her. And evidence shows that Ellen G. White is a demon consulter, a plagiarist. She was a perpetual failed prophet, a false witness, and more importantly, she was a blasphemer of Christ and a disobeyer of God. Mr. V reads from the Bible, if they can't come back, if they're coming back to you, then they're a demon. This is something that, one of the very few things that Adventists get right, and that is a dead figure coming to you is a demon. It's not your loved one. The Bible is very clear that the dead don't come back. But from a biblical perspective, it's not necessary to have a John Dee type religious ceremony to raise the dead, and it's not necessary to have a Witch of Endor ceremony from a necromancy person who knows necromancy to raise the dead. And the scriptures also are clear that you're not to consult these people. Now, if Ellen White is a necromancer, which we'll look into, then consulting her for anything is forbidden, isn't it? It's opposed to the Bible. Now, you're already not supposed to consult Ellen G. White for anything or believe any of her prophecies, because she's a Deuteronomy 18:22 false prophet failure as a Millerite. And I would say as a Seventh-day Adventist too. We're going to look at her failed prophecies completely in another program. The food for worms, depopulation of the world, that's supposed to happen soon. And also, ironically, Ellen G. White claimed that the spiritualism that was then taking over the world, which she grabbed onto and made a false prophecy about, it would take over Christianity, and it would be blasphemy to call spiritualism of the devil, according to Ellen G. White. And yet, Christians today still denounce spiritualism, and Ellen White is the one who's guilty of consulting with the dead. I mean, you just can't make these things up. It's a dystopian nightmare that Seventh-day Adventists live in, but they can't see it at all. When you look deeper into these failed prophecies of Ellen White, you see all the other failures in her prophecies. But Seventh-day Adventists just brush all of it off. And a lot of ex-Adventists don't even see it because they're looking at the bigger failed prophecy, the bigger picture. So as you can see on the whiteboard here, I put talking to the devil. Really, that's what necromancy is, isn't it? Think about it. Necromancy and Adventist hypocrisy. And necromancy is defined by the Strong's, number 1875, as derash, to seek or ask, inquire, question, search, seek out. Consulting the dead, seeking the advice of those who have died. And Ellen White claims to be speaking to her husband and speaking to Christ. When we read that account by her, from all that we can gather by reading it, she believes she's talking to dead James. And in the end, relating that to a message from Jesus Christ. Ellen White's actions literally are the definition of necromancy. She wants to further consult with James. She never corrects that later on. She never says, well, this is a dream, and there's nothing practical in what she said. Nothing down to earth. Ellen White is a mystic, a mystagogy. So this religious hypocrisy reveals Adventist bewitchment, because they can condemn people who just have an innocent dream of a dead spouse, but yet they cannot condemn Ellen G. White for this blatant necromancy. They are under the spell of the demonic spirits which also controlled Ellen during her entire life and afterward. Adventism is still controlled. Speaking of necromancy, and this is the worst form of it in Adventism, they're still controlled by Ellen G. White to this day, over 100 years after her death. Ellen the Enchanted, deceived by devils and the spirit of Satan, and we see that in her doctrines. And I'll prove that to you on this series of Adventist analyzers. We'll go into the depths of the wickedness of Seventh-day Adventism. We're going to see if you can condemn Mormonism on the same grounds, moral people, nice-looking people and everything, clean-dressed, wouldn't steal from you, I don't think, but the religion reveals the satanic origin of it. And when we delve into Seventh-day Adventism, okay, thank you for hanging out. Again, thank you for watching the Adventist Analyzer. Here's my final thoughts on this necromancy program. I do not personally consider a person's dream of a deceased loved one as necromancy, or even something evil at all. Yet, Adventists do. And they do so with bias and men's admiration controlling their unequal judgment. And we must consider Ellen G. White's strict judgments upon people who have any nefarious affiliations or even an appearance of evil, as defined by her outwardly strict religious mythos. As you judge, so you shall be judged, Jesus said. And she never corrects her dream self's desire for further consultation with her ghostly apparition husband. She, supposedly as a prophetess, should counsel us to not consciously seek to communicate and consult with the ghostly apparition of a deceased loved one that appears to us. Adventists call them devils in disguise. Yet Ellen openly calls her experience a message from God. And Adventism's irony is that they call my condemnation of Mrs. White's necromancy blasphemy of Mrs. White. Adventism always turns truth upside down. To them, my solid scriptural stand is dangerous ground. The reality of Ellen White's real world of occultic practices, gospel-defiling doctrines, hypocrisies galore, and all of her Victorian-era weirdness is plain for all to see. But only, it seems, to those outside of Adventism. For a short list of Ellen White's occult ties, watch my Halloween 2025 special. So why is this? Why can't Adventists see Ellen White's satanic reality? The answer from my own analysis is that Adventists are spiritually beguiled by the devil. Just as Mrs. White was, they are bewitched. They are devil brainwashed to not see all of this queer, occultic, and demonic activity in the Millerite movement, and in that of their beloved prophetess, the sister and seer Ellen G. White, an appropriate spiritualistic Victorian moniker for her, a seer and sister. She is the light bearer of Luciferian knowledge to that supposed remnant of righteousness, one of self-generated fake purity, just like that which is found in Mormonism. You have to decide whether or not it is the Lord's desire for you to remain intimately affiliated with a church whose prophetess was a demonically spirit-slain, shouting Methodist turned Millerite antichrist, an opposer of and mocker of Jesus, and who has a whole host of failed prophecies, even if you think that some of them came true, which they did not. But she has a host of unquestionably failed prophecies, failed second coming, i.e. timeline, food for worms, soon depopulation of the earth, spiritualism taking over Christianity, etc., etc. Ellen G. White, failed prophet of Millerism, failed prophet of Seventh-day Adventism, never got anything right, never really even got anything close to right. Ellen White was the penultimate newspaper exegete. Spiritualism's taking over. Oh, it's going to take over, and it's going to take over Christianity. She probably read something about depopulation somewhere, and that's where she got her idea. Failed Civil War prophecies. There's going to be a little bit of a lull in the war, and then when they think it's going to be over, the world's going to end. Jesus is going to come during this civil war, because of this civil war, and America's going to be destroyed. So many aspects of, when you look deeper into these failed prophecies of Ellen White, you see all the other failures in her prophecies. But Seventh-day Adventists just brush all of it off. So this reality of Ellen G. White's necromancy shows how deceived Seventh-day Adventists are. That church is a facade of Christian religion. It's just the doctrines of devil's playground for Satan, where he brought in, through Ellen G. White, all these doctrines that pervert the gospel of Jesus Christ. This necromancy of Ellen G. White shows us that Seventh-day Adventists are deceived, and they're biased, and they can never see anything evil in Ellen G. White. This will be proven over and over again on the Adventist Analyzer programs. And Seventh-day Adventism, the ultimate goal of it is the satanic doctrines that were brought into it through Ellen G. White and her deception by the devil, and her unrepentance coming out of Millerism, and using that failed prophecy, never repenting of it, using it as a catalyst for all this mythology that is a perversion of the gospel of Jesus Christ. And we've talked about the main one as the investigative judgment, but there's many others. That is the main goal of the devil in creating the Seventh-day Adventist Church. All the mythology around it is connected to keeping the Adventists deceived, deluded into believing that this mythology is actually real. and there is no reality to it. It's just like Mormonism. It's grand, and they keep adding to it. It's fantastically huge, but there's no reality to it. I'll prove that to you. I know if you're an Adventist, you believe that everything that the church teaches is true, and you believe there's no error in Adventism, or certainly believe there's no major error in it. But the Adventist theology, soteriology, and eschatology are all completely erroneous. They're not scriptural, they're not sound, they're not logical, they're not historically verifiable, they're nonsense. Perhaps that is what we could call Adventism, complete nonsense, among many other things. Thank you again for joining me on the Adventist Analyzer. I hope you enjoyed the program.